there's a little bit of planning that you really must do. And I am planting quite a few bulbs. So in this little bed right here, which contains 5 lavender plants, which probably will not start to bloom until June, I have planted behind them 25 Salome daffodils, which will be about 16 to 20 inches tall. I'm imagining those growing up with that beautiful little rustic fence behind them. It would be really pretty. And before them, I just laid these out to see where I'm going to put. These are Delft Blue Hyacinth. And I'll have to plant these about 6 inches deep. And around them I'm going to put little bitty grape hyacinth, which are only about 6 to 8 inches tall. So this will be an absolutely beautiful bed in the spring, just when these lavender plants start perking up a little bit and getting their little green leaves. So all along this border I have used my trusty little tulip digger to put in 25 blue hyacinth, and then I've given them all a good helping of compost over the top. It's really nice and soft, so I can just push those little muscari grape hyacinth bulbs, because they're very tiny. I can just push those in with my finger. And I'm just going to plant those all around these larger bulbs. So this little strip in Potager is going to become the permanent home for these bulbs that I've put in here. And the beautiful thing about so many bulbs that I love so much about them is that they are just the gift that keeps on giving. Because daffodils, hyacinth, and allium just keep on multiplying underground. A perfect example is this bucket of grape hyacinth. About, 2 years ago or so, I bought about 50 little grape hyacinth, and they have multiplied into hundreds and hundreds of bulbs. This is only half of what I've already planted in these gardens. But this will be a great bed that I will never have to move unless I want to. Not only that, I can harvest new bulbs out of here if I want to put some in other places. The lavender is only about 2 or 3 years old, so that should be here for quite a long time. So I will really not have to do much to this bed at all, except keep it weed-free. I think after the bulbs have bloomed, I am going to just plant some seeds, maybe some short little California poppies. Won't that be interesting, with those orange poppies next to the purple lavender? So this is going to be a pretty easy bed to take care of. Now, not all bulbs are like that. Tulip bulbs are a completely different story, and I'm going to be planting those in a completely different way. Everybody's working with me today because it is January 21st and it's 41 degrees outside. Here's Peggy having a nice little sun bath, and she's going to enjoy this weather as much as I am. So because your tulips are planted so deeply, and your bulbs, your narcissus, your alliums, etc., you can overplant them, and you really do want to overplant them. And that is because the foliage of bulbs usually dies a pretty ugly death. Now, you can cut the flower part of the stem after it blooms, but you really need to keep your foliage, because it's that foliage that is absorbing the energy from the sun and feeding the bulb and giving it energy so that it'll bloom again next year. So in order to sort of hide that, you want to plant other things around it or on top of those bulbs. And in this case, look at here, I've put those beautiful little lambs here. I can't believe it, how pretty that is at this time of year. That's going to be very lovely. It's going to grow tall. It's going to cover the ugliness of the yellow, shriveling daffodil foliage as it dies off. But another nice thing you could plant in here right on top are some probably little violas. They're short. They're right here in the front of the border. They're easy to grow. You can grow them from seed. Another good one would be little small poppies. And also, one of my favorites are primroses. The annual primroses, not the perennial primroses. They're easy to grow. They grow from seed. They drop seed, and they'll come back every year. It'd be a very pretty garden if you combine all these different things: roses, bulbs, perennials, and annuals. Okay, this is excellent. I've got over 200 narcissus and daffodil bulbs planted in the potager, and now I'm going to move on to the tulips. I'm going to do the tulips in a completely different way. I'm planting all of them in tubs and containers, and that's because I don't want to put them in the ground, because here in East Tennessee we get hot, humid summers. Tulips are notorious for not coming back if they don't get a pretty long cooling off period after they've bloomed. So by putting them in these tubs and containers, I can remove them after their foliage has turned yellow and just store them in a nice cold place. So your process for planting in tubs, tins, buckets, and containers is the same. This one has no bottom at all, so I don't have to worry about the drainage because it's obviously got plenty of drainage. All the rest of these tubs have a bottom. So I have used gravel, grit, and stone. That's going to be my drainage, and on top of that I'm using landscape fabric to separate the soil from the stone, because after I remove the bulbs from this tub, I'm going to use that stone elsewhere, and I just don't want the soil mixed in with it. And then compost soil, about 3 inches of that. Bulbs on top, packed in nicely. 25 bulbs in here. And then on top of that will be 4 to 5 inches of really good compost. So all in a row, we have 4 old tubs, which will be home to some beautiful tulips. This is called bubblegum tulip. It's pink, pinks and whites. In this tub I'm going to do negrita, which is a dark purple. Once again I'll put bubblegum tulips and then negrita again. Planting your bulbs in pots and tubs is just so much easier because you can plant everything at once. You don't have to dig a separate hole for everything. And in this tub I'm going to plant about 40 belle Epoch. They are pink. They have peony-like blooms, really luscious looking, and they're all going to go in here. You plant them pretty close together with the little pointy side up. You want your roots on the soil. And then I'm going to cover this with about 4 inches of compost. And then I'm going to put some mascaras on top of